This is a tool I made to solve a specific problem I had with antennas of the Moth. I had duplicated all these cylinders around to fill it out, and when I zoomed out again, I thought that I made them too thin, so I wanted to change the radius of all of them at the same time. But the problem is that when you duplicate things in Maya, you lose the history node, so you can't go in and just dial in a new radius for each one. So I had to make a script that makes a list of all the selected cylinders and records the location and the length of the cylinder, which is it just measures the length of one of the edges. So this script is not going to work with all cylinders, it's just going to work with ones with exactly the same number of edges. So I can then just select all of them. I have to center pivot, and then I can dial in a new radius for each. So it replaces them effectively. So it just records the location and the length, and then deletes it, makes a new one, moves it there, and I made it so it just tilts it 90 degrees on the side. I was not able to record the actual rotation of the cylinders, but this result is good enough for me. This is a small script I made to make it easier to work with display layers when you're modeling with reference images. I just think it was a little bit boring work to make a new layer and select it, add it to the layer, and so forth. So with this you can just select each image and open up the tool and press this button, create layers for each. So each image will have its own layer. Simple and effective. So this is a script I made that generates a procedural tree, or at least the base of a tree that you can work on to make prettier if you want. I have turned off the smoothing for this demonstration just so it's easier to see what's going on. So if we just start off with something, it starts by making a cube. The radius parameter determines the width and the depth of the cube. Then it circularizes all the edges up to this point, so we will get more a little bit more realistic tree. Then it selects the 4 faces on top and extrudes them individually based on the height parameter. So every time you run it, you will get a different heights of these base branches. Then it selects specific vertices on the tree, so it will raise this vertex by a random amount based on the branch spread parameter. So it will raise this one up and it will lower this one down with the same number, the inverse of the same number. So this will determine how steep the angle is for the branch that goes out here. The branch length determines the length of this extrude that goes outwards. The smaller branches are also based on that parameter, so they will be in proportion. So you can play around with this. I can show the one with the smoothing. It looks a little bit better. If you have the right values in, so you can make different instances of this tree and fill up an area if you wanted to, and find some way to make the foliage work. This is a script that will let you animate the curvature of a nonlinear bend deformer, or several of them if you want. The script will basically give the transformer 3 animation keyframes, with the first and the third one will be based on the wing bend, and the second one is the inverse of this wing bend, so it will get the same amount of curvature for the upwards and downwards flapping. So if I just start this, press play, because post infinity is turned on for the keyframes, it will just keep on going. I can give it a new one, because each time you press animate, it will delete the previous keys, so it won't get mixed up. You can animate several different ones at the same time with different configurations. So this would be kind of like a regular bird, and maybe this one will be more like a dragonfly, maybe. So you can just experiment with this. So there you go. This is a script that will let you make something swarm around another thing. You can make any object swarm around something else. So if we just start with a sphere and something else, maybe this cone, and position that here. Then I have to first select the thing that you want to swarm around, and then the target that you want it to swarm around. And if I press play here, I can generate this swarm. Because the vertical spread is very low, it will just orbit around this. If I give it a larger spread, it will swarm all around it. So it will just basically determine the height of the swarm. I can make a lot of instances around this. I can also give them some variation in the size and the swarm speed, which like the wing script, it will determine the distance between the keyframes in the animation. So you can get a lot of things happening here. I can delete the swarm, and we can try something else. If we now choose this object first and this one, and we try to swarm this, it will look maybe a little crazy, but let's try. So there are a lot of possibilities for what you can do with this script. So it will the script basically just it takes the object that you want to swarm, and moves the rotate pivot from its position to the position of the objects that you want to swarm around, and then it gives it random values in the rotation around the object, and it's about 18 keyframes long. And also with post infinity, so it will always keep going. So it will give it some variation. So this is what everything has been building up to. I wanted to make small moths swarm around the light. So let's try to do this with our two scripts. If I just make it flap its wings first, it's going to need a very fast flapping because it's an insect, and it will have a reasonable curvature. Something like this. And then I will open up the swarm script. I will choose this and the target. If you're going to swarm something around another object, and if it's not going to be the center of the object, then you have to move the pivot to where you want the center to be, and you have to bake pivot. Then it will know where to move the rotate pivot of the swarmer. So let's do this. Let's give it a little more spread. And maybe a greater amount of moths. Something like this. And maybe slow it down a little bit. It will look much more natural. So something like this.